Let's stop pretending for a second. Sousou no Frieren is not a masterpiece. It's not peak fiction. It's not revolutionary storytelling. And it's definitely not the emotional juggernaut people swear it is. Sousou no Frieren is one of those anime that survives almost entirely on vibes, soft music, and fans telling each other that if you don't love it, you're too dumb or too impatient to understand it. But here's the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud about Sousou no Frieren. Frieren is boring, painfully uneventful, and massively overrated. Sousou no Frieren is an anime that confuses slowness with depth, silence with meaning, and minimalism with brilliance. And if you remove the emotional framing fans project onto it, there's shockingly little actually happening. Sousou no Frieren biggest defense is always the same. It's not about action, it's about emotion. Okay. But emotion still has to be written well. Just because a story is quiet doesn't mean it's profound. Frieren spends an absurd amount of time doing nothing, then expects the audience to feel something purely because time passed. Walking, talking, flashbacks, more walking, more talking. Fans call this contemplative. In reality, it's pacing so slow it borders on self-parody. The anime takes simple ideas and stretches them across entire episodes, like it's terrified something interesting might accidentally happen. Let's talk about Frieren herself, because she's held up as this beautifully written, complex protagonist. But if we're being honest, Frieren is emotionally flat for most of the series. Yes, that's the point, but she's an elf with a long lifespan. But that doesn't automatically make her compelling. Being intentionally muted doesn't equal being interesting. Watching a character slowly realize emotions she should have explored centuries ago isn't deep character writing when the show refuses to meaningfully challenge her. Most of Frieren's development boils down to mild realizations that are repeated over and over until fans convince themselves it's brilliant. The supporting cast doesn't save it either. Fern and Stark are serviceable, but let's not pretend they're groundbreaking characters. They exist mostly to bounce dialogue off Frieren and occasionally remind the audience what emotions look like. Stark in particular is reduced to comic relief half the time, undercutting any attempt at seriousness. These characters don't drive the story, but they drift through it. And that's a recurring problem. Nothing in Frieren feels urgent. Nothing feels necessary. Everything feels optional, like the story could stop at any point and it wouldn't matter. Then there are the fights. Or rather, the complete lack of anything memorable. Frieren fans love to say it's not about fights, but when fights do happen, they're shockingly forgettable. Outside of a couple decent scenes, there is nothing iconic here. No legendary choreography, no tension, no emotional payoff. Frieren herself is absurdly overpowered, which completely kills any sense of danger. When she shows up, you already know how it ends. There's no suspense, just a quiet reminder that yes, she's strong, and yes, the episode will end peacefully. World building is another area fans exaggerate heavily. Frieren's world feels less like a living fantasy setting and more like a series of soft backdrops designed to support nostalgic flashbacks. Towns blur together, side characters are introduced briefly, then forgotten. The history of the world is hinted at but rarely explored in a meaningful way. Fans fill in the gaps with headcanon and call it rich lore, but the anime itself does very little heavy lifting. Suggesting depth is not the same thing as delivering it. The emotional manipulation in Frieren is subtle, but it's still manipulation. The show relies heavily on melancholy music, lingering shots, and the audience's own nostalgia to do the emotional work. It wants you to feel sad about time passing, about death, about missed connections, but it often earns those feelings through atmosphere rather than storytelling. Compare this to anime that actually build emotional investment through character arcs and conflict, and Frieren feels more like a mood piece than a narrative. And that's the core issue. Frieren is more of a vibe than a story. It's an anime people put on to feel calm, reflective, and slightly sad, not because it's doing something extraordinary, but because it's safe. It doesn't challenge the viewer. It doesn't take risks. It just gently reminds you that time passes and people die, as if that alone is some profound revelation. Fans praise it because it makes them feel mature for liking something quiet, not because it's objectively outstanding. The fanbase reaction to criticism only makes this worse. Any negative opinion about Sousou no Frieren is instantly dismissed as you just want action, or you don't understand subtle storytelling. That's not a defense, that's gatekeeping. Enjoying slow anime doesn't make someone smarter, just like disliking it doesn't make someone shallow. But Frieren fans have built an echo chamber where the show is treated as untouchable, and that artificial reverence inflates its reputation far beyond what the anime actually delivers. Frieren is not terrible, but it is not the masterpiece people insist it is. It's a decent, atmospheric anime that got elevated into something mythical because it arrived at the right time, appealed to a tired audience, and benefited from constant praise reinforcing itself. When the dust settles, Sousou no Frieren will be remembered as nice, not legendary, and no amount of soft lighting or emotional piano music will change the fact that most episodes boil down to very little happening, very slowly. So if you love Frieren, that's fine, but liking something doesn't make it flawless. And pretending Frieren is untouchable doesn't make it deep. It just makes the conversation around it dishonest. Sousou no Frieren is calm, pretty, and occasionally thoughtful. But calling it peak anime says more about the fan base than the show itself. Now go ahead, get mad. Tell me I didn't understand it. Write essays in the comments explaining why walking through a field for 5 minutes changed your life. Every angry comment helps this video climb the algorithm and proves exactly why Frieren discourse is more intense than the anime itself.